Chapter 18, 5 Years. Yang Kaiching and Zhou Rui looked at the soldier who came in to report with a look of horror on his face, looking at their squad leader. However, they couldn't blame him. Don't say he hadn't seen it before. Even as their right-hand men who had been with the squad leader for 3 years, they had seen this expression on the squad leader many times. They still couldn't believe that the person with the bright smile before their eyes was their cold-faced person, the one who trained the soldiers very strictly. Have you been naughty today? Have you disturbed your mother? Regardless of how the few people around him fell to 3 black lines, Qishan still used a doting tone to talk to his precious father. However, on the other side of the Pacific Ocean, classmate Chiyu was very dissatisfied with her father's questioning, fondling her small pink mouth. Daddy, we are all really sensible. When mommy is working, we will listen and not disturb her. We are not daddy either. The eldest son on the side, Chi Hao, obviously resented Qishan deeply, mercilessly exposing his own father. Humph, how can you compare to Papa? So to speak, being tempered by the child, his face became thicker and thicker. Rua, what do you say? His eyes were full of laughter, confirming with his wife on the other end of the phone, looking at the 2 children in front of her, looking at her, their eyes wide open and sparkling, looking back at the little son, who had always been sitting quietly reading books, now also looking at her, being burned to the feet. Durua's scalp tingled slightly. In his heart he couldn't help but secretly spit on his husband. The older he got, the more childish he was still competing with his children. Mom Qishan gently tugged on his mother's sleeve, displeased that his mother was absent-minded. Lowering her head to look at the little hand pulling on her sleeve, Durua smiled and sighed. Hugging the youngest child, also sitting near the phone, and said to her husband in a low voice, "Only know how to tease children." Very quickly, the man's low and happy laughter came from the phone. Her ears were slightly red. She looked at the calendar. Soon, very soon, these days of separation could end. She rubbed the cute little hair twirls on top of her child's head, and would not leave. The 3 little children took turns reporting to their father about the day's itinerary, even though she had seen it with her own eyes, but when she heard the child and father report together, it was still funny. Dad, today I beat up the person who bullied my little sister. Chi-Ha was extremely proud to report his great achievements to his dad on the other end of the phone. However, he received a displeased look from his mother. Haha. Qishan laughed awkwardly twice. How is really amazing. You don't need to report this to Dad. Durua also thought of Qishan's embarrassment, and chuckled softly. The eldest son grew up like him, and his personality was probably the same. He was very mischievous and innocent at this age. He was like a little tyrant since he was young, often giving them headaches. Dad, I also relied on those moves you taught me. Haha, I immediately knocked down next door down. Chi waved her arms and legs twice, smugly competing with her dad for credit. I know 6 words. Qishan on the side was also unwilling to be outdone. She was very interested in listening to her child's sweet and innocent report, when the cell phone beside her rang again. I'll go pick up the phone. She said something to the other end of the phone, then stood up and went out to pick up the phone. Hello, Anne, I'm Smith. Are you ready for tomorrow's surgery? Before she could say anything, a clear voice rang out from the other end of the phone. Hello, Professor, I'm ready. I'll do my best tomorrow. She replied seriously and respectfully. Smith was her professor at Loma Linda University. When she arrived, she realized that if it weren't for this passionate debater recommending her to the Chinese medicine professor, she probably wouldn't have had the chance to come here to study at university. If it weren't for this professor choosing her to be his assistant from the beginning and tutoring her, she wouldn't have been able to graduate from the best medical school in the world in just 5 years. In her heart, she regarded him as her respected teacher. Smith is an American, straightforward. She is also very troubled by him, because he is her professor, so she always treats him with a respectful attitude. However, she is only mentioning the Western medicine aspect. Otherwise, with this attitude, he still wants to discuss acupuncture with her. Okay. I'm just worried that you are nervous. Haha. Hang up the phone. She smiled and shook her head. His personality is like a child. However. Nervous? Of course nervous, this is the test of 5 years of Western medicine for her, very important. After this time, she can go home. In the blink of an eye, 5 years passed. 5 years ago, Durua gave birth to a few children, and immediately started to contact Loma Linda University, trying to carry out her original plan, but foreign universities seemed to be free but in reality were very strict. The school seemed unable to agree to her idea of studying through online textbooks. In the midst of family and medical conflicts, she naturally would not hesitate to choose her family. She was clear about what she wanted. Although Chishin could not always be by her side, this warm, peaceful and happy life was what she wanted. She had no reason to give up this life for anything else. But, when she was about to give up, Grandpa Chi called her to the study, where Father Chi, Mother Chi, Chishin, and even the 3 little babies who were learning to talk were all there. Rua, today our whole family is here. Grandpa Chi looked at his lively great-grandson who was na and winked a few times, receiving a burst of hearty laughter from the little baby before giving up. We know that you've been busy with your studies in America recently. We are elders, and want to tell you our opinion. She glanced at the man beside her, who was smiling ingratiatingly at her, and hurriedly called out, Grandpa. Oh, Mother Chi waved her hand to summon her daughter-in-law's gaze. Rua, you, don't blame little Shen, it was I who accidentally overheard you guys talking and told your grandfather. For her child, the daughter-in-law gave up her own ideals. If she didn't ask around, she wouldn't know. Her daughter-in-law applied to the best medical school in the world. If Durua gave up because of her child, it would be a pity. Yes, she smiled, and didn't say anything else. Grandfather, you say it, I'll listen. Rua, we also know the specific situation, we won't say much. Grandpa didn't drag it out, going straight to the point. We just want to tell you, your parents and I both support you going to school. Grandpa pointed at his daughter and daughter-in-law beside him, looking straight at his granddaughter-in-law. Durua was stunned, not knowing how to react. Rua. Mother Chi called out to her. Mom. She looked at Mother Chi. We feel, you are still young. Young people should take advantage of the present to work hard for their future. Your husband is only a first lieutenant now. Returning to the army won't allow you all to follow him. Take advantage of the past few years to go abroad to study. Let your husband earn military qualifications for you all. The more Mother Chi spoke, the more she felt that this plan could be done, and she nodded in satisfaction. Cough, Father Chi put his fist on his lips and coughed a few times. Try to study medicine. Medical skills are very useful for soldiers. In fact, for soldiers, doctors are very important. Father Chi obviously also understood this daughter-in-law to some extent, knowing that she valued her family. Being neat and flexible directly hit the target. I also feel that maybe in the future I will have to rely on you to save my life. Chishin quickly expressed his agreement with his father's words. Who knows, he would get his mother to pinch him from behind. What did you say? He looked at his wife with resentment. Durua knew that he was trying to make her laugh. She couldn't help but laugh softly, looking at his profound eyes. She lowered her head and sighed. Grandpa, Mom and Dad, I know what to do. She knew what it meant, but she didn't want to be separated from her family for so long, so she worked hard these 5 years. In her previous lives, she saw people often leave their children to the servants to raise, not being close to their parents. She always brought her children with her, not agreeing to that kind of situation. As long as he had a day off, she would bring her 3 children back to Shangjing, and as long as he had time, he would call his children to exchange feelings. Even though they hadn't spent much time together in the past few years, the 3 Chi children were very close to their father. Mom, are you done talking on the phone? Dad's time is almost up. Chiha was like a small firecracker, calling out to her who was standing outside the door. Have you all finished talking to your father? Her thoughts were interrupted. She turned around and asked the little firecracker, who was frowning. Done talking, Chi-Hao stretched out his chubby arms, asking her to hold him. She turned around and picked him up. Ah! So heavy. Patting the flesh on his little butt, she walked into the house. We'll fly back the day after tomorrow. The tone paused for a moment. From now on. Never leave each other again. Qishan absent-mindedly held the microphone. When he recovered his senses, the other end had already hung up the phone, and in his mind suddenly appeared the image of Du Rua's slightly red ears. On one side, Yang Kaiqing saw Qishan suddenly stunned. He pushed Zhou Rui, who was standing beside him. What happened? Just as he was about to step forward to ask, he saw the man opposite him. The smile in the bottom of his eyes began to spread, until his entire person exuded a kind of joyful breath. Captain, is sister-in-law coming back soon? Yang Kaiqing smiled and placed his hand on Qishan's shoulder. Qishan raised his eyebrows high. How did you know? Really? Yang Kaiqing exchanged a surprised glance with Zhou Rui. He was just saying, only this legendary sister-in-law could make him so happy. That's right. Qishan took off his military cap, happily waved it a few times, put it on his head, and quickly walked out. Where are we going? Zhou Rui shouted loudly, looking at his back. Go ask for my apartment. Saying to ask, in fact it was just doing some paperwork. Follow the army? Zhou Rui opened his eyes wide. Isn't that we can finally see this mysterious sister-in-law? Yang Kaiqing also heard, couldn't help but also happy for Qishan. They followed him for 3 years, although they knew he was married and had children, but until now they had never seen his wife and children, if not for every time they saw him talking on the phone, and when he had a break he would rush home, not letting them disturb him. They really thought he was joking. Actually they don't know, many people think so. Originally planned to hold a wedding, because Qishan was temporarily sent to do a mission, so only held a relatively simple banquet. Said to be simple, in fact not many guests were invited, but the identities of these people were not simple. All were Qi grandfather's comrades, mainly to introduce Du Rua to everyone. As for some juniors, except for a few close friends of Qishan, there was no banquet. Moreover, in the past few years, Du Rua was basically abroad. Even if Qishan rested and she went home, she was still forced by him to stay at home to experience the world of two people. Even the child was thrown to the parents. Outsiders should not even think about following someone in this place to see her. Because of this, everyone in Shangjing vaguely knew that young Master Qi was married, but not many knew about his wife.